So, continuing our daily rundown of matches in the Barclays Premier League in their haste to get this season complete and completed as quickly as possible. We had two matches on Tuesday. The first of them then, Leicester at home to Brighton. Gray was retained in the starting lineup. He came on as a substitute at Watford on Saturday. Barnes and Albrighton were on the bench. Inuachu came in to the starting lineup as well, but still no place for Perez, who was still warming the bench. For Brighton, Murray still on the bench. Chilotto also benched, but Connolly was back up front with Mopé. I must admit, the highlights of this game were not that visual, really. Early on, though, Brighton had the best of it. A chance for Connolly on 11 minutes, and he was sort of in a tussle and fell down in the box, but no pen. And then VRA had a look at it, and they awarded a penalty. Mopé stepped up, and Schmeichel was at his best, saving, so it remained goalless. 29 minutes, Connolly again threatening, but his looping effort was just over. 39 minutes, Ryan in the Brighton goal got himself in a real mess. He was attempting to deliver the ball by his throwing arm to the full-back, but made a complete hash of it, and Vardy, anticipating this, closed him down. He just managed to get his hands on the ball near the byline, otherwise it could have been a disaster. God knows what he was up to. And then in added time, the rare opportunity for Leicester when Maddison, from a training ground move on the right, he got to the ball. His cross was to the far post. It was nodded back, and then Soyuchu headed inches wide. Goalless at the break. The second half was really poor. Nothing really happened in the highlights show anyway, until the 80th minute, when there was a number of half chances for Leicester, but Ryan really wasn't troubled, and so it petered out to a dull goalless draw. Final score then at the King Power Stadium: Leicester 0, Brighton 0. Second match then was the first London derby since the lockdown was opened up. This was Spurs at home to West Ham. West Ham easily beaten by Wolves at home at the weekend. Spurs played out that 1-1 draw with Man U. They brought back Dele Alli for this one, also Lucas Moura and Sissoko. Bergwijn, who was impressive, unlucky to be benched, along with Lamela, and Wicks was on the bench. West Ham, still had Lanzini and Anderson on the bench, still no Haller. Fornals was up front with Antonio. 2 minutes across to the right penalty box area, and Antonio, a great control, laid it back to Noble, but there was a collision, nothing given, but Noble was furious, wanting a pen. 19 minutes, another decent chance for Antonio this time, who tested Lloris, and from the follow-up, that was blocked by Spurs. 21 minutes, first real effort for Spurs. A great shot from Moura created a yard of space, and from distance he tested Fabianski, who had to be alert. 44 minutes, good piece of play from Spurs, and the ball was moved across the midfield and finally got out to Son, who had a sort of couple of yards of space on the left. As he often does, he jinks in from the left, and a low right foot shot with venom hit the left corner, leaving Fabianski no chance, and we all thought that was 1-0. However, VAR had a look at it and he was a fraction offside, so no goal. Another effort on 47 minutes, but it fought for more of that was, but his effort was wide. So goalless at the break. Not a bad match, but nothing too scintillating. So into the second half, and then first chance from Harry Kane. Aurea got into some space on the right, found Kane at the near post, but he was well blocked as the effort went wide. And then up the other end, a chance for Fornells on 53, but a dreadful effort went easily into Lloris's palms. 58 minutes, a swift break from Spurs, and Kane was put through, but his final shot was wide. And then a little bit later, just 5 minutes later, there was a corner on the right. The ball was centred in, and it unfortunately hit Sojak. There was a melee of people in the 6-yard box. It just hit him and flew off into the net, and so Spurs were ahead with a fortuitous own goal. But they certainly took advantage of that, and it wasn't long before, on 81, they had a swift counter-attack, and Kane was put through. He beat the offside trap, he galloped through, and he clinically finished in the corner. No chance for the keeper, so Spurs were 2 up. And that was really about it. Bowen did have an opportunity, and he hit a post. That was before Kane doubled Spurs' lead. But it ended up a relatively comfortable win for Mourinho's men, and they needed it. They hadn't won in 8 apparently. West Ham, serious questions being asked about their survival now. Final score then at the new White Hart Lane: Spurs 2, West Ham 0. So on to those 4 matches on Wednesday night then, and the first of them, we're going to go to Old Trafford. Looked really eerie, really, completely deserted. The largest stadium in the Premier League holds 70,000, and there was probably 100 there. But nevertheless, Manchester United at home to Sheffield United. United had got a reasonable draw at Spurs, and Sheffield United, however, had slumped to their biggest defeat away from home of the season. De Gea, even though he made that big boob, was retained in goal. Pogba selected ahead of Fred and Matic and Matoname. Greenwood in the starting lineup for the Reds, and he was in for Jones. McGoldrick and Mousset replaced Sharp and McBurney up front. I'm sure that was just to freshen things up by Wildy, but of course he was without his his number 1 keeper, Henderson, who can't play against his club. United have the contract on Henderson. So off we went then. 6 minutes, Rashford tightly marked, but he managed to get to the byline. He fires in a cross, and Martial, quick to react out of nowhere, gets a strong touch on it, and it's in the back of the net, and it's 1-0 to United. 12 minutes, a swift counter, and Martial again put through by Rashford. This time he returns the compliment and sets up Rashi, but unfortunately the goalkeeper to beat, and he flicked the effort just wide as he was challenged. Should have been 2-0. 18 minutes, another neat interchange in and around the box, and this time Fernandes sets up Rashford, but his finish is poor. 30 minutes, an effort from 30 yards that was well wide for the Blades. And to 43 minutes now, Pogba and Fernandes linking good together. Then the ball was put out onto the right by Wan-Bissaka, and again a very swift, hard-driven cross was poached by Martial inside the 6-yard box. He duplicated the effort, and they were now 2-0 up. 2 goals for Martial, who was looking razor sharp. That was the score at half-time. Second half, still not a lot from the Blades, really. Greenwood got his shot away after some more good by Fernandes on 54, but his effort was slightly deflected just wide. And then 61 minutes, a great dribble by Pogba into the box. He swiveled past 2 or 3 players, and then Martial stole the ball off him, but he blasted it over. But things were still looking good for United, and a neat interplay with Rashford, and Martial got his hat-trick, a delicate chip over the advancing keeper, and so that was 3-0, and that was game over. Not a lot really from Sheffield United. They would have been bitterly disappointed with this display. Solskjaer, on the other hand, he must be purring. Fernandes and Pogba are starting to gel, and of course with that firepower now up front with Martial and Rashford and Greenwood, good times ahead, I think, at Old Trafford. So final score, Manchester United 3, Sheffield United 0. So to St James's Park then, Newcastle at home to Aston Villa. Following that solid 3-0 win at the weekend, Steve Bruce didn't make any changes up front. All those 3 were retained. That meant Shah, Carroll and Muto were on the bench. For Villa, Hourihane on the bench, Trezeguet in. And it was that man Trezeguet early on, 5 minutes, got into the box after a great cross, but his shot hit the ground and went over. 27 minutes, some silky scores from Jack Grealish, and his cross found McGinn, but the header went wide. Then a couple of chances for the Magpies on 36 and 37. Firstly, a dangerous cross from St Maximus, which eluded both defenders and attackers. And then Joe Linton was put through, and his effort was blocked by Mings, a great tackle. So it remained goalless at the break. Into the second half now, and on 48 minutes, Trezeguet again an opportunity, but he headed it wide. 56 minutes, Almiron managed to dance his way into the 6-yard box, but he managed to steer it wide also. And a little bit later, St Maximus, a great run, but again he blasted over. Then some substitutions were made by Bruce. On came Carroll and Gale, and it was that man Gale poaching in the box, and he slotted home after a great put through by Carroll. Poor defending, it has to be said. And then 74 minutes, Villa got a free kick, but the defender just forced it out for a corner. The game was an interesting change in the game came on 82. Newcastle looked to be coasting, but they, following a flick from El Mohammadi, following a corner, it evaded Dubrovka. It looked pretty poor from the keeper, it has to be said, but it went in the corner, and so both sides had to be satisfied with a point. So the final score at St James's Park was Newcastle 1, Aston Villa 1. The briefest of highlights from Norwich versus Everton. The highlights I watched, there was no commentary, and it was very difficult to know who were the influentials. Cantwell was put on the bench, as was Pukki by the manager. A fresh front line, Hernandez, Durmic, I believe. Sigurdsson still on the bench, Bernard in for Everton. A scruffy shot hit a post for Norwich in the first half, but I can't be sure who was responsible. Pickford did punch a shot away a little later, but 0-0 at the break. And then second half, we've got a corner for Everton. I can't be sure what time it happened, but it was met with authority by Keane with his head, and it flew in the net, and that was 1-0 for the Toffees. Lewin should have made it too late on, but another defeat for Norwich. Final score at Carroll Road, Norwich 0, Everton 1. So to the final fixture on this crowded Wednesday evening fixture list. This was at Anfield, Liverpool at home to Crystal Palace. Palace, of course, have got that good win at Bournemouth, but they had a much more daunting trip on their hands. And Liverpool were back to full strength. Robertson, Salah and Wijnaldum all back. Milosevic was on the bench for Palace, and as soon as we got going, Wilfried Zaha picked up an injury and he had to be replaced, and there was no Benteke either. So Palace were up against it right from the off. 7 minutes and the ball came to Wijnaldum following a defensive lapse, but he scuffed his shot wide. 15 minutes, again Liverpool, virtually all the action was up the Palace end. Mane's flick to Firmino, but his shot was tame. 22 minutes though, a 30-yard free kick from Arnold, and he does hit this so beautifully, reminiscent of David Beckham, of course. And it was far too good for the substitute goalkeeper, no Gaeta. He was another one missing, and it flew past him into his left-hand corner, and that was that. 1-0 to the Reds, a few minutes later they should have made it two. A free kick on the left this time, and it came to Henderson on the edge of the box after it was cleared, partially cleared, but his shot was blocked on the line and it went onto the post. 36 minutes, more Liverpool pressure again, and Wijnaldum's effort just wide. And 4 minutes before the break, Palace did have an opportunity, a half chance. Gomez lost possession, but the shot went wide from distant from Maya. 43 minutes then, and an exquisite through ball from Fabinho found Salah, and his penetrating run, and he's so strong on the ball, of course, and he managed to glide it past Henderson, and that was 2-0 to Liverpool. Into the second, I think that's Ramsdale there, not Henderson, by the way. Second half, 2-0 up to the Reds, and 54 minutes, absolute belter from Fabinho from outside the box. Cracked it into the top right-hand corner as he was looking at it. That was 3-0 then, and Salah nearly got his second on 62, and then finally Mane got in the action on 68. He breezed into the box after some good work from Salah and Firmino, the three of them linking beautifully together, and he shot it in the right hand corner, and that was 4-0, and that was it. It was all over. Delightful win for Liverpool. They're just 2 points away from the title now. They could win it in their next game. They've got Man City, the current holders, away. Should be a belter. So that's the fixtures for Wednesday. We have got a couple on Thursday, and after those I will do a results video of the matches this week, Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday. And then it's a new round of matches starting Saturday. So that's your lot from the Premier League. So to Wolves at home to Bournemouth. Just one change for Wolves. Espirito Santo decided that Dendolka could have a rest on the bench, and Traore was in from the start. Of course, he was very influential in that win at West Ham. Stanislas was in for the Cherries, King injured, and Harry Wilson put back on the bench. Not a lot happened in the first half an hour. However, there was a dangerous free kick by Neves on 36 that caused defensive worries for the Cherries, but the ball managed to get cleared for a corner. 48 minutes, this was in added time. Jota running through with menace, feeds Traore on the edge of the box, but his effort just high and wide, so it was goalless at the break. But on 59 minutes, an absolutely glorious move by Wolves, and it was their dynamic duo. Traore on the right managed to get that extra yard of pace, beat the defenders, got to the byline. His cross was perfection, and Jimenez, who else, running onto it, a bullet header that hit the back of the net, and they were in front 1-0. On 76 minutes, after Espirito Santo had rang some changes, Neto, a marauding run on the right, cut in, but his shot was blocked. And a rare effort on 82 minutes for the visitors, Jumo, but this went just wide. But it's really looking quite depressing now for Bournemouth and Eddie Howe. They lost this one as well. Full time, Wolves 1, Bournemouth 0. So, Thursday's matches. First of them then, this was at St Mary's at Southampton at home to Arsenal. Team news, Ozil and Lacazette were on the bench. Nketiah was in up front alongside Aubameyang. Holding still keeping Socrates on the bench in defence. For the Saints, Long on the bench, they looked like they were full strength. One other final selection that was important, Martinez in for the injured Leno. So to the action, 7 minutes, a nice move down the left by Arsenal, but the pass that hit the winger, I think it was Saka, was a fraction offside, which was a shame because his cross was met by Nketiah, who basically hit the ball home. But he was offside, so no goal. A couple of minutes later, again, weakness down that left side for Saints. This time Aubameyang hitting the crossbar after a great crossfield ball. The goalkeeper got nowhere near it, and usually Aubameyang puts those away, but it remained goalless. 12 minutes, first chance for Ings, running across the box, got a connection, but his shot was well blocked. And then 19 minutes, an absolute howler from the Saints keeper. He was trying to find, I think, his left back, but he hit it far too close to Nketiah. The rebound fell favourably for the Arsenal striker, who was a yard in front of the keeper and managed to get and put it home before it went over the byline. Disaster for Saints, 1-0 Arsenal. On in added time, another fortunate block in the Arsenal defence, and Nketiah free again on the break. A second chance, but he fluffed his lines this time. So it was half-time, 1-0 to the Gunners. Into the second half, a sweeping move down the left by Southampton, crossed to the edge of the box, which was finally fed to Ward-Prowse. He's usually good with these, but his effort just over. 53 minutes, and this time Aubameyang tried to set up Nketiah, but Bederick, long leg, managed to block the ball, and so another escape for Saints. 72 minutes, a poor headed clearance from Southampton cross, but Redmond lashed it just wide into the side netting. It looked like it was going to be one of those days for Saints. 77 minutes as Stevens finds Long, whose shot forced a good shave from Martinez. And a minute later, another Arsenal break, and a poor back pass by Stevens, and Aubameyang nips in, and he was brought down just outside the box. The referee had a good look at it, and felt that he was the last man, so he issued a red card to Stevens. So Saints were now down to 10 men. Lacazette had come on and he hit the shot into the wall. The follow-up, however, forced a sharp shot from Lacazette. McCarthy did get a body in the way, but it fell to the advancing Willett, who lashed it home for 2-0, and that was it. Southampton, don't know what was wrong with them really. Arsenal, well, they got a comfortable 2-0 win in the end. They certainly were the better side, but they had their share of luck as usual. But relief for Arteta. Final score at St Mary's, Southampton 0, Arsenal 2. Second game then was at Turf Moor, Burnley at home to Watford. I had a bit of a problem seeing anything of this game because of a copyright infringement which denied us all a look at the highlights. Managed to finally get some on YouTube in a foreign language. Welbeck was up front with Deeney and Clevery in for Decore for Watford. Burnley looked relatively unchanged even after that hiding at the Etihad. But it didn't seem to have much impact really, because Burnley were by far the better side. 20 minutes of Vedra extravagant shot hit the post and it rebounded to Rodriguez, whose follow-up was cleared off the line. That was the best of it in the first half. 79 minutes though, nice move by Burnley down the left, great cross, and Rodriguez got his head to it. Nice flicked header wide of Foster, and that was the opening goal. 86 Vidra again, but Foster was able to block this one with his legs, but it wasn't enough. Burnley back to winning ways, took this game by a single goal. Burnley 1, Watford 0. Okay, so the third match, and really the highlight of the fixtures on Thursday, Chelsea at home to Man City, fourth played second. The implication was that if City lost, that would be the title for Liverpool. Chelsea, of course, really needing a win to stay ahead of the chasing pack in fourth. However, they rotated Lampard, Loftus-Cheek and Kovacic were on the bench. Pulisic, who had a good game at the weekend, and Barkley were in. Man City, well, there's 5 or 6 changes for them. But no Aguero, he's had an operation on a knee problem, and Foden apparently was slightly injured. 14 minutes, Kepa, poor clearance, was intercepted by Bernardo, but defenders bailed out the keeper. 17 minutes, well, we've got here Mahrez, free kick on the left, and his delivery was glanced goalwards by Fernandinho, but Kepa this time tipped it over. A nice move by Chelsea later, down the left, and eventually a Barkley shot was pushed behind by Edison. And then a sort of a header was on target from, I think it was Christensen, after some good work again by Chelsea, but Edison again alert, and it was pushed away for a corner. There was some real shambles then over near the halfway line. 2 defenders got in each other's way for City after a quick clearance by the keeper, and this enabled Pulisic to take advantage of their hesitancy, and he outpaced Mendy, who was a major contributor, and he sliced the ball nicely in the corner wide of Edison, and so that was Chelsea 1 up as we hit the interval. So 1-0 for Chelsea. Second half then, minute 54, and out a free kick outside the box. Kevin De Bruyne stepped up and he hit a glorious shot that over the wall and then dipped viciously, hit the back of the net. The keeper Kepa had absolutely no chance, and that had levelled things 1-1. And then on 56 minutes, a quick break from Sterling, and his glancing effort, but beat Kepa, but it didn't beat the post, and it was hooked away. So a let off for Chelsea, and it had come after a brilliant setup started by Edison, which led to 3 passing movements. However, remained 1-1. 62 minutes, Mount had a slight chance, but to no avail, and then Sterling again inches wide with another curved attempt. Then on 72 minutes, Pulisic again quick ahead of defenders, rounds Edison, but the shot was cleared off the line. And then this led to an almighty scramble with a little bit later William on the right. There was a right melee in the box, 2 efforts by Abraham blocked. The second appeared to possibly have crossed the line, but when VAR had a look at it, it appeared that Fernandinho had handled the ball, so the referee gave a penalty and a red card. Now the Brazilian stepped up against his teammate, and he looked very assured as he slotted it home. So that put Chelsea 2-1 up, and that remained the final score. It was absolutely electric on social media for the Liverpool fans as they celebrated winning the Premier League title for the first time in 30 years. It was Klopp's 4th year, I think, or maybe 5th. He's had, I think, 2 4s and a second, and now he's won the title. So, congratulations to Liverpool. Chelsea consolidated their position in 4th. That's the roundup, and we'll get this video out to you. And there'll be another set of videos after the fixtures restart again on Saturday. That's your lot.